when people are growing up to a certain age, we have a stigma for them. We call them witches and wizard and all that. But we forget that you that is a younger person, you refer it to another person as a witch or wizard, that very soon you will also become old. People will also call you witches and wizard, you know, and then you are responsible for the problem of the society, whether you are supposed to be a treasure for the society because you have gone through a lot to be able to grow to that age. You were supposed to be there to give advice to people and all that. Okay, like I said, I don't want us to trade
And
that.
one other thing
Yes,
quickly.
please.
I mean, we used to be a people who respected and revered our elderly. It was more the people in the West that sort of threw away their older people. We were people who really our older people were seen as elders, who had wisdom. Unfortunately, like you said, we see how in some for some people the older people are being cast aside, and something that people are not understanding is that with a lot of older people there is dementia that we don't understand as dementia, and that's why for some older people are cast aside and seen as crazy and mad, but they may be going through dementia, which again is a mental health condition that affects older people. They're not witches, they're just going through a, a natural human mental health problem that comes up for older people at times.
Thank you for that. All right, now let me take a step even backward now. How did you even get started with this project, with this mental health, the sector? How did you get involved in it? How did you get started?
Yeah. When I think back, it really happened very organically, in the sense that from a very young age, I seem to have the capacity to attract people to tell me their problems, people from a young age. And when I did start thinking about my career, I I initially in university I did business management, and I really don't know why I did that because I have no business inclination whatsoever. But I like to spend, but I don't have business anyway. When I finished that, I found that I wasn't excited with my qualifications, and then I started writing for newspaper in Nigeria. I started with Vanguard, and then I was with the Guardian. I did, and then Punch, and I found that very quickly I people were sending me messages, asking me different things and asking me to, give them advice about different things. And something started stirring. I think that's where it really started stirring within me. That real desire and passion to support people, emotionally. And then when I came to the UK, I trained in counseling. And when I finished as a counselor, my tutor or mentor was saying, "Look, you have something. There's something. You have a gift with this thing. Why don't you pursue it even further?" And I said, "Okay, I'm curious about it. I'm excited about it." And then I trained to be a psychotherapist. Went 4 years in that training. And at the end of that, with that qualification, I then could practice as a mental health worker. So really, that's how I got into it. And then I did some work with women in prison, which was the period where Nigerian women were mules, considered mules. And then I was working with the women in prison, and through talking to them, beginning to understand that a lot of them were traumatized, a lot of them had mental health problems, a lot of them were depressed. So my interest was really heightened at this stage. I worked with an organization called AMWA, Kinamamawa Africa, and our work took us to Amsterdam, to Italy, see the Nigerian women who were there, and the women who had been trafficked to Amsterdam in the red light district. And all of these women, there was all a theme. They were all women who had mental health problems. They had been abused, they had been, raped, there had been, a whole range of things that, people, even they themselves didn't understand as what part of what might have been driving some of their own behavior. So at this stage, it then became my work. This was then something working with women, and particularly my interest was with women of color, and even more focused African women. So that's how it all sort of started.
That's interesting. And that is also a deep story of itself, no? The journey that African women go through here, um, the Nigerian women also in this case, no, in Europe. What do you think the people need to know? I mean, the people in the diaspora community about the argument we are having today, mental health.
Well, just really being open to understand your own mental health, what mental health means to you, taking stock of how you feel on a daily basis, understanding that if you're struggling, if you're finding that there's a stage in your life where or a period in your life where you feel under huge stress, and how that stress is manifest, if it changes your behavior on a daily basis, if you find yourself really struggling. And there's some basic things, like I said, if you find that your sleep is interrupted or disturbed, or you're waking up very early in the morning, not sleeping, continuously, waking up, constantly early, not being able to go back to sleep, problems with like I said, eating too much or not eating enough, just generally, struggling with daily life, take a minute, find out, number one, within your domestic setting, if it's your husband or your wife, talk to them about how you're feeling. And each person, the husband and the wife, be open to hear what they say. Really listen to what they're saying. We need to create an atmosphere where people feel safe to talk about it. Because if you're ashamed or you feel you're going to be judged, these are all things that shut people down, where they just say, okay, they have to just deal with it and do whatever. Sometimes it's even things like spending money that you don't have. Sometimes women think, they just like nice things. But if you find that, that has become a source of, using spending as a way to cope with difficult feelings that you're having, it's all part of the symptoms of what people do. Coping, what they call coping strategies. There's so many coping strategies. People use drinks, alcohol, drugs, overspending, all kind of abusive behavior. There's so many things that people use to cope. And sometimes coping strategies they're good, but for a period, because it helps deal with the struggles you're having. But when it becomes something that is counterproductive, or is something that is causing even more harm to you, like if you're spending money you don't have, or spending money that should be used for the well-being of the family, and you can't stop, that's a problem. And why are you doing that? It's like people who overeat sometimes, it's like you're trying to stuff the problem down, push it down, but it's going to come back up again. And it'll come up in ways that you're not aware, because that's where domestic violence comes in for men and for women, because men are abused by women too, so there's so many symptoms, that give you a sign that something isn't right. And it's being able to either one, yourself understand that, okay, I'm doing, my behavior is causing more harm to me and to people around me. What's going on? and people just being able to communicate with each other. We have to be able to listen to one another. Or if the family is noticing another family member behaving in a particular way, call a family meeting, make the person feel able to open up, not accuse them, just, okay, what's going on? We noticed this, we noticed that. How are you feeling? Just to create an atmosphere where people can talk, because it's all about the communication and being compassionate, being empathetic. It makes a big difference. And for some people, when I was doing one-to-one counseling and therapy, people who have been condemned, within a 6-week period of doing counseling or therapy, they're back to their normal selves again, which if they didn't have that intervention, it could have progressed into something worse. So we have to be able to talk about this thing. We have to be able to mention it without cringing, without being fearful, without being accusatory, without throwing all kinds of unhelpful stigma onto mental health. Mental health is what it is. It's just similar to physical health. If you think of it that way, if someone has cancer or any kind of illness, people don't, condemn them. The same way our mental health is under huge stress at the moment, so we have to be more kind to ourselves and be able to listen to each other.
If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewafo. Thank you so much for listening, and talk to you in the next episode.